Transfers on Football Manager is always going to be one of the most key areas, and for many people the most enjoyable area of the entire game. It's also the one area that attracts a lot of questions, such as where can I find the best players? What methods do I use in order to find these players and keep refreshing the squad? Well, today I'm going to go through some of the methods that I use in my own save and how I bring new players to my football club in Football Manager. Hello and welcome to a one-off video where we go through the different methods to finding players in Football Manager 2023. My name is Craig, and in this video, as mentioned, using my own personal save, we're going to go through the different methods that I use to try and bring players to the club. Now the save I'm using is of my Unemployed to Legends series, which is currently on the channel. There'll be a playlist floating above my head somewhere. Feel free to check that out after this video, where we'll be looking at how I've been bringing players to Dundee United. Now if you do go on to enjoy this type of content, make sure that you hit the like button down below. Also make sure that you hit the big red subscribe button so you don't miss upcoming one-off videos that will be coming up hopefully over the next few weeks. Also keeping up to date as well with my Unemployed to Legends series as previously mentioned. Now we are going to go through the methods, and we're going to start with what I consider to be the most important method, and that is the first protocol, the Director of Football. Now most clubs in football today do have a Director of Football who help you in bringing in players and even sometimes trying to get rid of players that you don't want in your squad anymore. But for me, the Director of Football is someone that I want who will look at trying to bring in players maybe for even cheaper than I might actually possibly get them. So in order to go to your Director of Football, click on the Transfers tab on the left, go to Director of Football at the very top, and you can select the Request Director of Football suggestion on the right hand side here. You can go through different positions of the squads or different positions on the field, and you can ask the Director of Football to recommend transfers, loans, end of contract, or any free transfers that you would like to bring to the club. So if I clicked on goalkeepers that I want them to recommend to me to buy, of course there's none there at the moment, of course there isn't. So if I go to loan and I want the Director of Football to recommend someone for central midfield that I can loan in right at the end of the January transfer window, all I have to do, click on the suggest, and he'll bring up a list of players, if there are any, that I can look into or try and scout if I don't have any scout reports, add them as a transfer target, and just straight up make them an offer should I so wish to. But this is a good way to find players that you may not be aware of, especially if the Director of Football has contacts in another country where they might be able to know some players. In addition, your Director of Football can also make offers for players, such as on the screen right now. My Director of Football did make an offer for a player named Cameron Puertas from Union Saint-Gilloise in Belgium, I believe they are, and he can make an offer to buy them for a fee or even just on a free transfer. Now the most important thing here is, if you are going to let your Director of Football do this, always make sure that in your staff and responsibilities, transfers and contracts, you always make sure that the Director of Football, as much as they initiate player signings for your club, you are the one finalising player signings. Otherwise, it could be a case that your Director of Football brings in players who are no good for your squad, and that will not only waste the wage budget, it could also waste transfer budget, it will also waste squad space in your entire club. A second method that I always use, we're going back to the Director of Football method for this one, is the use of getting in TRIALLISTS. Now I did touch on this before just a moment ago, saying that you can ask the Director of Football, especially on the 1st of July every year, to recommend any free transfers. Click on free transfers when asking the Director of Football, hit a position, and he may be able to suggest to you players that he feels we should be looking to bring in. And I would recommend always right click and offer a trial. Preferably you want to offer at least 2 weeks, so that way you get the full scouting knowledge on them, and then you'll be able to make a more informed decision about whether they're going to be any use to your squad. So we're going to go ahead and just quickly bring in a couple of trialists. Who knows, they may be useful for me. But certainly every single summer when teams and other clubs are all releasing their players, all getting rid of all the youth players, especially lower down whatever league pyramids that you are in whichever country you are in, trialists will always be handy. You bring them in, you see if they're good enough, and if they're good enough for you to be able to spend money on, or if you're an amateur club, just sign away and just get rid of any deadwood later down the line who you don't want for your squad. A third method that I use to bring in players is, of course, scouted players who are already known by my scouts and by the club in general. So that's why we are on the scouting screen right now. I do have a few scouting reports that I need to go through, but in general, if you want to have a look at all the scouted players that your club already knows, head for scouting on the left tab, players, scouted players, and I just need to clear all of the search filters that I've put in, and you will get a list of every single player who has already been scouted by all your scouts, or just by anybody else, any of your other staff members in the club as well. If you want to narrow down exactly what you're looking for among your scouted players, head for the new search bar button on the top right. You can filter it by position, so attacking, midfield, defense, striker, age as well, anywhere from 15 up to the age of 45. You could also ask for scout recommendation, make sure it's at least an A+, for example, or an A-, depending how much stock and how much you trust your own scouts. So as a rule of thumb, the lower down the football pyramids, the league pyramid that you are in, whatever country you're in, scouts are generally not as trusted because they are just not as good as at the top level. I'm currently in the Scottish Premiership, so I have a little bit more trust for all the scouts that I have brought into the club. So chances are I'll look at their scout reports a bit more heavily, but I'll still want to use my own trained eye for what I'm looking for in a player, and that comes down to attributes, that comes down to their report card, and also their previous club history as well, what they've done in other leagues, and if they've been in any leagues of actual, well, credits, and I'm talking about the top 5 European leagues here. But for all players who are known to your club, this is the screen to go to. Generally, a lot of players, what they'll do, they'll try and go to players in range, but be very careful. This also includes players who are not scouted by your club, so you'll need to get scout reports for them, and that could take a little while, especially if you've already got a massive list of players who are yet to be scouted by your scouts. If you go to this little button at the top, recruitment focus, you go to scout priorities, you can actually see the amount of scout reports that are waiting to be completed by your scouts. I actually don't have that many because I cleaned it out recently, but generally I have had an entire list of about 200 players who are all waiting to be scouted, which was going to take a while, so I just cleaned it all out, restarted, and just focused on all the players who I was actually interested in. I would recommend the very same thing for you. It not only cuts down the amount of time waiting for a scout report, but also if you need to act quickly, like for example if you're on a deadline day like I am, you'll be able to act way quicker. And speaking of deadline day, that is the fourth method that we're going to be using here, because it is a great way to find interested players who are looking for a last minute move. So that is why, again, we're on deadline day. I've just gone to the deadline day tab on the top left, and this is only available, well, certainly in Europe, on the 31st of January, or wait, what day is this? It's the 31st of January or the 31st of August or 1st of September, whenever your transfer window is going to close. And I'll be on this little page for agent offers here. Now on this page is where you will find players whose agent are trying to find them a move, and sometimes this can actually result in finding a player who's not only looking for a last minute move, but a player who may actually fit your system that you are looking to play. It's a great way to find, even accidentally find, a player who may just be a missing link for your squad for the second half of the season or for a new season, again depending on whichever country you're in. And because it's their agent who is looking to tout them out for a new club, chances are they can be a little bit cheaper. So for example, £450,000 for Dusan Stojanovic. He's not a player that I'm actually interested in, but chances are you will be able to get him for very close to the bottom range of that price tag, especially if the club are looking to get rid of him. So in his case, is he actually transfer listed? No, he's not, but it's worth going through any players who you're interested in, just see if they're transfer listed, because chances are the club will be looking to get rid of them, and get rid of them on the cheap. A fifth method that I use as well for my transfers is of course the shortlist, and that is a shortlist of a bunch of different categories that I will use in order to sort of file away scout reports that I'll need for a future time. So if you go to your scouting tab on the left hand side, go to shortlist at the top, and you will see that I have set up all the different shortlists. Default is already there, but I've set up an under contract, future prospects, loans, of course, maybes, players who I may be interested in later down the line, transfer targets, and of course the fabled wonder kids, who I am trying to get scouted one at a time because we don't have that much of a scouting budget. If I quickly go to transfer targets, certain players here who I will be thinking about, especially in the summer, of trying to get in. There was one player here I was actually trying to get in this January, Josh Timon from Brentford, but I just felt we've got enough left backs at the club for the moment, so I could come back to him in the summer if needs be. And where will I find him? In my shortlist for transfer targets. It's just a tidy way of keeping any transfer targets, any loans that you may want to bring in, especially at the last minute if like one of your best players decides to move on. One thing I would recommend as well, keep scouts reports up to date ticked, so that way the scouts will always keep these players' scout reports completely up to date. But also make sure when you're interested in players that you tick these loan and transfer buttons as well. That will give you the final list of players who may be interested in actually moving to your club at that time. And the final tip I will give for shortlists as well, always make sure you tidy them up. I'm going to be tidying up shortlists after deadline day has actually closed, because I know there's probably a bunch of players who actually shouldn't be in these lists, and I'm particularly looking, I was actually looking at the loans one, but looks like I cleaned that out already. So if you don't need to clean them out, congratulations, but I know a lot of people use the shortlists, forget about them, come back to them later on, and then just need to have a complete clear out. So I suggest doing it on a as you go basis. Just keep it tidy and much easier for you to navigate. And finally, a tip that I will be using once it actually happens is scouting the under-20 tournaments. And when I say when it's going to happen, it will be for the under-20 World Cup, which is actually happening this coming summer for me. I'm currently in January 2027. The tournament will take place from about May to June 2027. So as soon as the teams are all drawn, I'll be going through each of the nations and scouting any players who are especially particularly young and already included in the squads. Now, I know this is a method that has been mentioned probably by several other YouTubers as well, but I do feel this is a very underrated method because you're able to find younger players who may be interested in your club, certainly once they hit the age of about 17, 18. And if they are looking to be a very, very good player and they haven't quite hit that wonder kid stage yet, then it's a good opportunity to get them in before they become players who everybody would then be interested in, aka when they become wonder kids. So always keep a check on when the under 20 tournaments are actually happening. In fact, if I just click in under 20s, you've got the World Cup. You also have the under 20 World Cup golden ball, golden glove, golden shoe for all the player categories, Asian Nations Cup, under 20 Copa Libertadores. All the different tournaments that happen on the different continents could be a very, very good way for you to find young players in completely obscure countries. So make sure to keep this in mind, especially once you start hitting the top divisions and your scouts can actually afford to go to these countries. So what has this meant for my squad? Overall, this squad has been made up of players brought in by all these different methods combined. My director of football has actually been responsible for a few of these signings, not least, for example, Sam Curtis, who we completely found out of the blue from Ireland. I wasn't even scouting Ireland when I first started at Dundee United. My director of football just comes to me and says, look at this young kid, 19 years old at the time when he came in. He was out on a free from St Pat's Athletic and we just ended up bringing him in. And what happened? He's become a starter for us in the Scottish Premiership. It's always worth going through these different methods, and some methods you may find more success with for bringing in players. That is completely down to you and the types of players you're looking to bring in, but overall it's always worth experimenting with these different ways of bringing and scouting different players, because you never know, the next big hero you might find could be from absolutely anywhere. And so there you have it. These are the methods that I use to bring in players for my team, and there are going to be other methods I reckon I might actually discover down the line, but from my own personal experience, this is what I've found to be successful so far, and quite frankly I'm very happy with them, especially the director of football. I think that is a very underrated method that not everybody uses, I don't believe. It's like there's a certain mistrust, but either way, I hope you have success in finding players for your own clubs. I hope you found this video useful, and if you have, make sure that you hit that like button down below, smash the big red subscribe button, and just let me know if you're looking forward to more videos such as these, because I feel I have a few more ideas, especially from the comment section of my previous videos, of what I feel should be featured on the channel. But until then, thank you all so much for watching, thank you all for your support so far, and I look forward to seeing you all in the next video.